Welcome to the Great People Show, your guide to greatness, your GPS to excellence. Here's your host, J.J. White.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Great People Show. I am your host, J.J. White. And in the studio with us here this morning is a guest co-host, good friend of mine, James Muncie. Welcome to the show, James.
Hey, good morning, JJ. How are you doing?
I am great. Everyone always asks the same question. Our callers, of course we're great. That's what we do here. We are trying to be greater is really what it is. So I'm really happy to have James in the studio. I've known James for several years, and I'm going to tell a quick story before I let him tell us more about himself. And this actually may not look really good on me personally, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I think some people are like this. I think a lot of people are like this. There's only so many people in our lives where when we have a meeting with them, we have a conversation with them, any kind of interaction with them, you just always come back a better person. You just always have this feeling like, wow, they are so much smarter than I am. They have so many more ideas than I. And I never compare myself. Well, I shouldn't say I never. I often don't try to compare myself to other people. It's a small group in my world where I always walk away feeling like I'm a better person and really kind of pushing my own thoughts and even my beliefs. And that's James. That's you. Like
Wow.
every time we have lunch, and until we reconnected over the show, it had been a while since you and I had really talked. And I really missed that. I missed being around you in Rotary. I've always looked up to you as a guy that's like super creative, high energy, just a smart dude. So I'm so thankful to have you on the show.
Well, it's a shame. And I felt the same way about you. I've missed our lunches. You used to come to my office and we would sit down and just kind of talk about life. And I'd always leave there feeling pretty great. Again, back to the whole great people.
That's
thing.
it. Iron sharpens iron.
Absolutely.
So James, what is your story? Tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do and what makes, and maybe a little bit about your path to greatness. Like where are you going in life?
I'm still very much on that path, trying to get better every day. So lived here in Richmond for about 17 years.
Wow.
With my awesome wife and 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and owned a few businesses here in town and put a lot of business deals together. Now I mainly help other people put together transactions where they're trying to buy a business. So help them find that business, help them structure the deal and find financing for it.
Yeah.
So really just trying to help other people make their dreams come true.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Your team makes their dream. Something, I don't know. There was a rhyme coming there, and I didn't close the loop on it.
Can I use that?
Well, you might want to make it better. I wouldn't stick with that one. So thanks again, James, for being here on the show. And today, I just can't take it anymore. We have to talk about what's going on in the world. This is a non-political show. We're not going to talk politics here today, but what we are going to talk about is how it's infiltrating our lives. It's changing our attitudes. I feel like every time I turn around, a portion of my belief system is being questioned.
And doesn't it get you down?
It not only gets me down, it creates emotions in me that I do not want to hold. Like sometimes it's anger, it's frustration, it's intense. And the reason we're going to talk about it on the show, first of all, it's a huge issue with us as a society.
Definitely.
The purpose of this show is your guide to greatness. So as we look at what we try to do on the show, which is to help other people or help people help other people, this is a huge barrier. This is destroying relationships. This
Constantly.
is killing us.
Yes.
Maybe not physically, but certainly mentally. It's really, really hurting us. If you're like me, I spend too much time on Facebook. We have this radio show now, so it's my excuse to be here. We do the show on Facebook Live. Go to greatpeopleshow.com anytime you want to find out where the show is and how to tune in. Right now, we're on 97.7 and 820, The Answer in Richmond, and Facebook Live. So we leverage social media to get our word out. It's like a 1 to 100 ratio, though, of the positive things that we do on our show to the 100 memes and articles and opinions and just things. And we will talk about this on the show because the goal of the show is to see how we can manage this a little bit better and how we can maybe do some things differently around it.
Right.
And most importantly, be a better contributor to what's going on now.
And I'm constantly, the polarization that's happening on that media now, it's blowing up, and current events have caused it to get even more so through the election and now through all the latest controversies. And it's difficult not only to control your own mood based on what you see, but your relationships with people who you consider friends. Again, it's so polarizing. How do you maintain those relationships and not enter constant debates with people who you otherwise consider your friends?
Well, and we're going to talk about that today, not to give too many secrets away as far as how we're going to end this show. I think you're going to be surprised at the advice that we give you. It's going to be challenging for everyone. Some people I've talked to are already doing these things. We are going to throw down a massive challenge to our listeners to make a better difference, because I think what's happening now is people are using social media to try to make a difference, and they're making the wrong difference.
Absolutely.
We're pushing people down the spiral staircase. And I don't know that we mean to. Some do. I don't mean to do a lot of the things. So I think what's happening now is the way we're reacting to this is by saying, I'm out of here. I'm going to do nothing. And I do not believe that's the right approach.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be one extreme or the other, right? People are either ignoring it, or that human nature in you that says, I really disagree with what I just read, and I know I probably should ignore it, but I have to respond. And then sometimes your response is going to infuriate the person on the other side of the computer screen. And then where does that leave you at the end of the day? Are you really changing anybody's opinion?
No, and we just end our day wound up. Really.
Exactly.
I've laid in bed at night making the mistake of checking Facebook before I go to bed and letting these things stir in my head and in my heart, really. And that was one of the things that I realized, because when, James, you and I first started talking about this subject, you brought up the fact is, how do you stay positive with all this?
Right.
And as we kept talking about it and I kept thinking about it, it wasn't as, and that is a topic in itself, is where is this coming from? And I felt it comes from people either on purpose or unintentionally challenging our belief system. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this emotional reaction is not as much based in I'm right and you're wrong, but the real emotional trigger is people just telling you you're wrong.
That's right. Or people saying that they're right and any counter opinion to that must be wrong.
Yes.
And it becomes so personal. It seems that we can't have a discussion anymore. Everything, if you oppose what the other person says, it all becomes very personal for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. So let me hold this until we come back from our first break. But I found some scientific neuroscience research on why this is happening to us. Before we do that, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, A Ginger Kid. And if you're tuning into the video, you can see we've got our Ginger Kid tool bag hanging on the wall. We've got fruits and vegetables today. So James,
really?
pull out your first fruit and vegetable. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right, where you have to like dig in for one of the tokens and see what you come up with. What'd you get?
It's a carrot.
It's a half a carrot.
Part of a carrot.
All right, let's see what I come up with. So I came up with, looks like the end of a piece of corn. So the challenge that James and I have today is who can create as many whole fruits and vegetables. So there's my piece of corn to your piece of carrot.
All right, well, we'll see where this goes.
So when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about this whole topic of how do you manage yourself when your belief systems are being challenged. I'm J.J. White, your host. In the studio with me today is James Muncie, and you've been listening to The Great People Show.
Oh, I want something just like this.
Hi, I'm J.J. White, host of The Great People Show. As a parent, I'm now busier than ever and don't have a lot of time for teaching my child fundamentals or helping them build good foundations. That's why I love products by A Ginger Kid. They allow me to spend time teaching critical skills to my children while we all have fun. The quality wood used in A Ginger Kid products can't be beat, and the wooden texture brings a nostalgia that allows both my child and I to enjoy our moments together. A Ginger Kid products are about equipping parents to help their children learn with confidence. A Ginger Kid also helps me pause to take moments to create intentional memories with my children. These classic toys teach classic moments. Go to agingerkid.com and enter the promo code GIFTS to receive 25% off your order as one of our listeners. A Ginger Kid, the tools and toys that teach.
Before the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People was the Dale Carnegie course. Now, after 104 years, over 8 million people experience Dale Carnegie courses. People like Warren Buffett and Ronald Reagan. The Dale Carnegie experience uses proven techniques to permanently unlock the potential of top talent, making individuals into inspiring leaders and groups into high-performing teams, while reducing the financial and emotional costs of employee turnover. For more information, visit DaleCarnegieRichmond.com. That's DaleCarnegieRichmond.com.
Jacqueline and Nick thought they knew everything there was to know about each other. But after staying at the Omni homestead, where they discovered Nick was a natural in a kayak and Jacqueline had a zest for ziplining, they realized every journey is a chance to discover something new. How might staying at Omni affect you? From unlimited golf to intimate dining and romantic spa retreats, visit theomnihomestead.com to find the perfect package for your next getaway. The Omni Homestead Resort. Never stay the same.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Great People Show. I'm JJ, and here with me is James.
Hey,
So glad to have you. Hey,
glad to be here.
what's up, man? Today we're talking about what do you do when your belief systems are challenged, specifically in social media when it just feels like you just walked into this big room and there's like gunshots going off and people are throwing things at you and you're like, how did I end up here?
And it happens every day. Every time we get on,
Every time.
we're bombarded
Every
with it.
time. Before we went to break, James, you had brought up the point of, why how does this happen so quickly? And I found this on a couple sources. Specifically, it was zmescience.com, but I found it at multiple websites. It was a study from the University of Southern California, shows that when our political beliefs are challenged, brain areas that are involved in shaping our personality and emotional response to threat, lighten up. So if you're walking down the street and someone pulls out a gun and you're about ready to get mugged, it's the same part of the brain that reacts when someone goes on Facebook and says what you believe is wrong.
So it's like fight or flight, right?
It's massive.
Yeah.
So the brain enters an emergency mode when we feel threatened. When our belief systems feels threatened, we go into an emergency mode. And this is very core to who we are, because we feel like we're getting attacked on a very personal and emotional level. This team surveyed 40 liberal voters' opinions on a range of political topics, as well as their opinion on a series of non-political topics. And the researchers then scanned the participants' brains using MRI while systematically attacking all the points on which they reported having a strong view on. Then they tested the strength of the participants' opinions again, and there was a clear difference emerged between the political and non-political beliefs. So they found it was very political driven.
Right.
Core, I believe this, very black and white. They showed a greater emotional response. The more the participant felt attached to the belief, the more their amygdala and insula lit up. Now, if you know me, that was a challenge. I used pronounce.com to figure out what
Those are the words of the day.
I'll let you keep using them. And the more they resisted the arguments against it. The first question we need to ask ourselves in this whole subject is, how solid are your beliefs?
I mean, pretty solid, but our beliefs on some things more than others, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have our soft spots.
Yep.
And it's especially when we see something that challenges those spots that we are most passionate about, that I think we get this, what looks like a natural reaction based on this study. And,
we could talk about cognitive dissonance here on the show. We're not going to get all psychological, but when your deepest convictions are challenged by contradictory evidence, studies have shown that your beliefs actually get stronger. Like what that means in plain English is you dig your heels in even more,
right,
when someone challenges you, but you're not really questioning your own beliefs. And we may find out later, maybe you are questioning your own beliefs. The stronger you get.
I think you absolutely are. And I think also the big difference that we've seen in our society. So when you and I were kids, we didn't have social media. We had our group of friends, and our group of friends that we hung out with generally, not always, but generally had the same beliefs that we did.
Very, very much so.
Well, now I was looking at you. You have over 2,000 friends on Facebook. Now those friends,
yeah, quote friends,
right? Exactly. A lot of them aren't going to share your beliefs. So versus just a decade ago, look at how much now we are bombarded with people who have those strong opinions that are opposite to ours.
Yeah.
So it's something we didn't have to deal with, at least not nearly as much, until pretty
It's
recently.
true. There's more views that we have to cope with, and to consider an alternate view very much in a way is having to consider an alternate version of ourselves.
Ooh.
And we're just not wired to do that.
No.
I mean, we are not all that confident in ourselves to even say to ourselves, wow, maybe I've had it all wrong. Maybe I've had me all wrong.
And our ego gets in the way too.
Yeah. Every once in a while, right?
Just, yeah.
One of the things that I noticed in the theme of how these things are presented online, I found this quote: "When in doubt, shout." That when people are unsure about themselves, they get louder. That we counteract or overcompensate our discomfort with something by just drowning people out, and we're seeing that all over the place.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of times what we are saying and how we're feeling is very much masked in insecurities and other things. I'm going to give you a quiz right now, James. See how well you do with this.
Okay.
I would have failed if you would have given me this quiz. Have you heard of the title of this book? 4.5 Years of Struggle Against Lies, Stupidity, and Cowardice.
I have not.
Okay. What is that? Before we get into the big reveal here, what does that title say to you? 4.5 years of struggle against lies, stupidity, and cowardice.
Does it have to do with a political period?
Could.
I mean,
what about you personally, though? If you think about like 4.5 years of struggle against anything, but it's struggle against lies, stupidity, and cowardice. It's like a fight against something, right?
Yeah, but it's a fight that I think a lot of us feel like we've been fighting for a lot more than 4.5 years. I feel like that's every day of my life.
You just nailed it. And it's actually the original title of Hitler's Mein Kampf book.
Really?
Yes. The book that launched the Nazi Party. That was the original title of his book. 4.5 years of struggle against lies, stupidity, and cowardice.
Wow, I did not know that.
And this is the reason that as a society, we need to be careful, because what our beliefs are rooted in is the most important part of this. It's what our beliefs are rooted in. Who are we? What do I believe? If we listen too much to too many other people, especially people that we are similar to, that we feel like we have a lot of respect to, they may not be our beliefs.
Right.
They may not be us. We may be acquiring someone else's beliefs. I heard this quote yesterday. If you believe nothing, you'll fall for anything.
So then how can you tell the difference?
Oh, that's, if you're listening to the show right now or on Facebook, call us. We'd like to have you help us answer that question. How can you tell the difference? 804-454-1366. We're taking callers this morning. The next piece that we saw this very heavily on Facebook was who is challenging your beliefs.
Okay.
And I didn't seed it with the question. That became the answer. People were using that as a way to define this. Okay, so if someone that I respect, admire, and trust challenges my beliefs, I'm going to listen to them.
Right.
If it's someone that I don't know very well, certainly do not trust, respect, I'm absolutely going to fight them on it.
I think that's true.
Well, what if both people have the exact same answer?
It goes back to, who do you respect? I mean, who has your respect? And those who have your respect generally get your attention a little more, right?
And what if the person that you admire deeply and respect deeply doesn't necessarily have it in your best interest? The other person that you don't have a lot of respect for, don't know, does have it in your best interest. We get fooled.
Absolutely.
Because of who is actually communicating the challenge. And it's really not just our beliefs. I mean, if someone that you trust gives you advice, you're all over it. I know I'm all over it. Like if you said, JJ, I have an idea for the show, I think you should do this.
Right.
I'd be all over it. Now, if someone that has wronged me in the past, or let's be honest, has maybe said some things that I thought wasn't high quality.
Right.
I'd be like, oh, thanks for the idea. And I may dismiss a really great idea based on who gave it to me.
Yeah, I mean, we listen to those people who we consider good influences. We decide who's a good influence on us, sometimes incorrectly.
Yep.
And it's those people who we're generally going to be open to the advice from.
And this actually happened on Facebook this week. He may be calling into the show. He may be listening to us right now. Scott McRoberts, who is the executive director of the Virginia Council of CEOs, who I'm on the board of here in Richmond, had posted this week an article It was an opinion piece on the Confederate statues, and we're broadcasting here in Richmond, which is only an hour away from Charlottesville, and we actually have more Confederate statues than they do.
So,
I
soon
think
to be
it's coming
the center
here.
of our own controversy.
The former capital of the Confederacy. It's coming here whether we want to or not, depending on what happens with these statues. But so just a little bit, and Scott, if you're listening, please call into the show. We'd love to have you on here to talk more about what happened with you on Facebook, 804-454-1366. He presented this article, and to add more context to the story, Scott's white. He has adopted children that are black.
Yep.
And he didn't outright give his opinion about taking down the statues, but by just posting the article and pulling a quote from it, it was pretty clear what his opinion was.
Mm-hmm.
Every single, I didn't read every comment, but most comments, and I think it was every single comment, was in favor of Scott's viewpoint.
Okay.
And this morning, or no, maybe it was last night, he actually commented, "Thanks for the civility of this conversation. Should I be concerned that no one actually challenged the viewpoint?" And I think he asked another question there. I said, "Well, they're just being silent."
I wonder why that is. That's not what we typically are seeing when I look at Facebook comments.
No, not at all.
I'd love to understand why that was different with Scott.
And the comments were some of the most civil comments I've ever seen. And most of the comments were, "I thought one thing and now I'm thinking something different." I was just blown away. I'd never seen anything in the history of Facebook where I was witnessing people changing their opinions on Facebook. Now, in all fairness, the opinions were being changed before they commented on Facebook, but for people to openly confess, "I believed one thing and now I believe something else. Thank you for sharing this," absolutely blew my mind.
Absolutely, especially on an issue that is, over the last 2 weeks has divided us. I mean, look at what it's done to Charlottesville.
Yeah. Actually, we do have Scott on the line. Kelsey, if you want to put him through. Scott, are you with us?
Hey, JJ.
Scott, I'm talking about you on the radio, man.
I noticed.
Tell us about this. I don't know what you heard, but I was sharing the story of this article. I'd love to know your viewpoint. What happened? I think you created something on Facebook that the world has never seen, which is put an opinion on there, and people were civil about it. But at the same time, you didn't really see a lot of differing opinions, did you?
No, I didn't, but I attribute that mostly just to having, friends who are respectful and value what I had to say and my perspective. And certainly there are some that probably disagree with the point of the article that I shared.
Yeah.
But and maybe they, the atmosphere is so tense right now that perhaps they didn't want to risk offending me or others, and it's a little risky to get out there and argue about this kind of stuff right now.
What drove you to even put that on Facebook? I mean, you took a big chance.
So I was the weekend the riot in Charlottesville happened, and I was at a wedding in Lynchburg, and I was watching it come across my phone, and I was just horrified. And I read everything I could on it in the ensuing days, from all sides, and tried to get a clear picture of what happened, what caused it, and what to do. And my overwhelming urge was that I got to do something. And so I wrote a article on LinkedIn from a business perspective. And then when I ran across the article that I shared, which is from The Atlantic, written by a high school history professor, who had always felt that the monuments should stay in place. They're good teaching tools. They were important to be able to teach children the history that we've experienced. But then he went through an explanation of why his opinion has changed, and it has to do with a visit to Prague, and how the citizens of Prague, so harmed by communism in their country, have torn down all the communist monuments.
So Scott, we got to take a quick break. Can you stick with us to tell us the rest of the story?
Sure.
So today on the show, we're talking about what do you do when your belief systems are challenged, and we're actually talking with Scott McRoberts, who put his beliefs out on Facebook and found that they really weren't being challenged. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Scott. You've been listening to The Great People Show. Hi, I'm JJ White, host of The Great People Show. As a parent, I'm now busier than ever and don't have a lot of time for teaching my child fundamentals or helping them build good foundations. That's why I love products by A Ginger Kid. They allow me to spend time teaching critical skills to my children while we all have fun. The quality wood used in A Ginger Kid products can't be beat, and the wooden texture brings a nostalgia that allows both my child and I to enjoy our moments together. A Ginger Kid products are about equipping parents to help their children learn with confidence. A Ginger Kid also helps me pause to take moments to create intentional memories with my children. These classic toys teach classic moments. Go to agingerkid.com and enter the promo code GIFTS to receive 25% off your order as one of our listeners. A Ginger Kid, the tools and toys that teach.
Before the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People was the Dale Carnegie course. Now, after 104 years, over 8 million people experience Dale Carnegie courses. People like Warren Buffett and Ronald Reagan. The Dale Carnegie experience uses proven techniques to permanently unlock the potential of top talent, making individuals into inspiring leaders and groups into high-performing teams, while reducing the financial and emotional costs of employee turnover. For more information, visit DaleCarnegieRichmond.com. That's DaleCarnegieRichmond.com.
Jacqueline and Nick thought they knew everything there was to know about each other. But after staying at the Omni homestead, where they discovered Nick was a natural in a kayak and Jacqueline had a zest for ziplining, they realized every journey is a chance to discover something new. How might staying at Omni affect you? From unlimited golf to intimate dining and romantic spa retreats, visit theomnihomestead.com to find the perfect package for your next getaway. The Omni Homestead Resort. Never stay the same.
All right, we're back on The Great People Show talking to Scott, who went out on a limb on Facebook on this whole statue controversy. But Scott, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
James has a great point. James?
So Scott, we were talking during the break. You mentioned how most of your friends seem to have a respect and probably seem to have your same belief system that you have on Facebook, and that's one reason why you think a lot of them didn't comment to the other side. How much have you had to trim your friend list? So a lot of people I know, when they have friends that are disrespectful, when they have friends even who just have a different belief system, they just start unfollowing or unfriending those people. So how much of that have you found yourself doing in recent months and years?
I probably had the urge to do that some, but I've resisted it, and I instead I find myself coming upon the usual suspects who are peddling what I consider less than legitimate news sources, and I just sort of scan it and I skip by it.
Yeah.
But in light of Charlottesville, I found myself clicking through and reading that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get, the whole picture. And I think we all need to do that.
And I think that's the advice for our listeners today is if you've already made a stance that you're never going to post anything out there that may cause a problem, follow Scott's lead, and there's going to be something that comes up in your life that you just can't resist doing it. But at the same time, Scott, it was something that was not very opinionated. I mean, it had opinion in it, but it really did a good job of getting someone to think hard about what they believe in and why. And to be very honest with you, it made me think about what I believe in. So I want to thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being on the show today.
Sure, absolutely.
Good talking to you.
It was a thoughtful article. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Scott. So we have another caller. Obviously, we've hit a chord. We have some passion going on around challenging your belief system. We have on the line with us here Amy from Roanoke. Amy, you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Welcome to the show, Amy. Are you an opinionated person, Amy?
I would say that I am, yes.
How do you manage this on Facebook, either when you see someone challenging what you believe or think, or maybe you want to challenge someone? I don't know if you're more of a challengee or a challenger. How do you deal with all this?
Well, honestly, your opinions are your own personal beliefs. So somebody else's opinion shouldn't you shouldn't be offended when somebody else has a different opinion than yours. You shouldn't be offended when somebody else decides to challenge your opinion, because your opinions are what you've already come to the realization and decided that are true for your life and in your mind.
Yeah.
So when let's say I post something on Facebook and somebody comes at me and they're like, that's not true because, well, for one thing, you can learn from others and possibly change what you believe based on evidence that they provide to you. And number two, I mean, you might decide that you're able to change their opinions and their beliefs by facts and information that you can provide them. So it's more of a learning experience. It's more of an experience that helps people grow. It should never offend you in any way.
So I noticed when you put the response to our research question this week, and I loved it, where I don't even know if I have it word for word, but the essence of it was, if you really believe something, actually, here it is. I got it. Amy, I got your words. If you truly believed what you claimed to believe, you wouldn't need to practice self-control, because your confidence would block the effect of anyone else's opinions. After all, you believe it. So you believe that you were right. And when I saw that, I somewhat did not agree with it because of the emotional factor. Like I personally have trouble dealing with my emotions whenever my belief systems are challenged. But then I read your comment and wait a minute. Does that mean I don't believe what I believe because I get upset and angry? Like, is there a middle ground here with this, Amy? Or is it something that we should be really thinking about ourselves if we're getting upset?
You should never be defensive about your beliefs. You should never, if it's a religious belief, let's say somebody's challenging your religion.
Okay.
Well, you've already decided deep within your heart and your mind and every part of you that your faith in your religion is what you believe to be right.
Right.
So somebody coming at you with a different religion, questioning you, it shouldn't be looked at as, oh no, this offends me. What they're saying is wrong. This isn't true. You should keep an open mind and just listen to them, because every person allows you a different type of learning experience, and the same goes both ways. I'm
going to point out something really fast, because you brought up the whole religion piece, and it really depends on what the religion is. And I'm not well versed on all religions. I'm not a theologian, but since we're talking about it, so far we've broken all rules. We've talked about politics on the show. Now we're talking about religion, and I guess before we leave, we have to talk about sex. I'm not putting that pressure on you, Amy, but I'm just saying on the show we may have to do that. But with the religion piece of it is, most faiths or religions actually kind of dictate you should listen to the other person that disagrees with you. But I know I don't see that anywhere.
No.
I mean, and I'm sure you don't either, Amy.
No, from just what I've personally experienced with other people and the relationships that I have with other people, they believe that everything that they believe is true and it's accurate because, their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents pass it down to them, and that is what it is, and they don't want to let any other information in. Like, they don't want to do any extensive research. They don't want to look outside of the box that they grew up in.
Yeah.
So that's great for some people. If that's your belief, that's what you believe that it's supposed to be, and that's the way that you feel like you should have been raised and you should raise your children. But I'm a firm believer that you should break out of that box, because if you don't receive all of the information around you, you can't make an informed decision. If the only information that people are feeding you is the information inside of that box that you grew up in, of course you're going to think it's right, because you haven't heard anything else. You haven't allowed yourself to experience other things, other religions, other beliefs, anything outside of your box. So I believe you should always be looking, you should always be digging, you should always be searching. That way the belief system that you have within yourself is what you've found to be true, not what other people have planted in you.
And in a perfect world, we're having these conversations all respectfully and not personally. I think that a big part of where we were heading today, Amy, and I don't know how you deal with this, I'd love to hear, is when somebody makes statements that are personal rather than just about the issue. So a statement that says, for example, anybody who believes that these Confederate monuments should be taken down is a racist and a Nazi. Or on the other side, anybody who doesn't believe they should be taken down has no respect for history and doesn't care about the past. I mean, those are personal attacks, and that sometimes is what is getting this huge negative, opinion, and that's what really impacts you. So when it's personal, how do you handle that, and how do you respond to that?
When you start dealing with people that are firing personal attacks at you or at groups or at anybody, they're not interested in having a conversation. They're strictly interested in picking a fight and stirring people up, and they're not worth having a conversation with to begin with. So honestly, when people start attacking me personally, I completely shut them out. I'm absolutely 100% into having a conversation about a topic, about events, but no personal attacks. That's where I draw the line and completely walk away.
And the other thing I think of whenever it gets personal is, this is what I do. I say to myself, wow, you must be really hurting inside, aren't you? Yeah. For you to come after me on that subject, what's it like to live your life, to have to go to bed with all that anger and negativity in your head? Because if I'm not careful, I'm going to start to take on some of that for them. Almost like they want me to take it on for them.
They want to drag you down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're modern day bullies. It doesn't stop in high school. It definitely extends to adulthood as well.
That is a fascinating perspective. I never thought of that. And Facebook, social media really enables that, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. It
absolutely does. But at the same time, it gives everyone a voice. So you have to be really careful about who you let in and who you shut out.
On that note, is Dave near you? Dave, and by the way, everyone, Dave is Amy's husband. Dave, is he near you?
He's downstairs watching the infant, so you guys don't have screaming in your ears.
So I'm just going to read a comment that Dave put on Facebook. It just showed up in my stream here because we watch the show on Facebook while we go. Dave says, nobody can make us fear or hate each other. We the people have the power.
Oh, I like that.
Absolutely.
So I can only imagine what it's like to be in Amy and Dave's house. It's awesome. Amy, thank you so much for joining the show. You have a great radio voice. You should come on more often.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy your day.
Thanks, Amy.
You too. Bye-bye.
So before we go to break, we've got to pull some fruits and veggies out of the Ginger Kid tool chest here, because I've got half a corn or a piece of corn, and James has a piece of carrot. Oh, what?
I got.
It's not broken apart. See, that's wrong. That's an onion.
So it's the entire onion.
You only have half the onion. Put half back, buddy. No, put half back. No, not the whole thing. Just take it apart.
Put half.
Okay.
I'm going to pick something else.
Okay. You want for another one?
It's like a half a pear?
Half a pear. Let's see what I got.
Keep talking. So let's see. So we used to have ones just like this for our kids. They love them. So what?
It's the middle of a banana.
A banana.
I got a long way to go here. That's yours over there. All right. So when we come back from the show, we're going to keep talking about this whole subject of how do you manage yourself? How do you control yourself when your belief systems are challenged? And we're going to spend the rest of our time together talking about the tools. What can we do different? Because we have an opportunity here to change the world. You've been listening to The Great People Show. Hi, I'm JJ White, host of The Great People Show. As a parent, I'm now busier than ever and don't have a lot of time for teaching my child fundamentals or helping them build good foundations. That's why I love products by A Ginger Kid. They allow me to spend time teaching critical skills to my children while we all have fun. The quality wood used in A Ginger Kid products can't be beat, and the wooden texture brings a nostalgia that allows both my child and I to enjoy our moments together. A Ginger Kid products are about equipping parents to help their children learn with confidence. A Ginger Kid also helps me pause to take moments to create intentional memories with my children. These classic toys teach classic moments. Go to agingerkid.com and enter the promo code GIFTS to receive 25% off your order as one of our listeners. A Ginger Kid, the tools and toys that teach.
Before the book How to Win Friends and Influence People was the Dale Carnegie course. Now, after 104 years, over 8 million people experience Dale Carnegie courses. People like Warren Buffett and Ronald Reagan. The Dale Carnegie experience uses proven techniques to permanently unlock the potential of top talent, making individuals into inspiring leaders and groups into high-performing teams, while reducing the financial and emotional costs of employee turnover. For more information, visit DaleCarnegieRichmond.com. That's DaleCarnegieRichmond.com.
Jacqueline and Nick thought they knew everything there was to know about each other. But after staying at the Omni homestead, where they discovered Nick was a natural in a kayak and Jacqueline had a zest for ziplining, they realized every journey is a chance to discover something new. How might staying at Omni affect you? From unlimited golf to intimate dining and romantic spa retreats, visit theomnihomestead.com to find the perfect package for your next getaway. The Omni Homestead Resort. Never stay the same.
I want something just like this.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Great People Show. Today we're talking about what do you do when your belief systems are challenged, especially on Facebook or anywhere else you see all this madness and mayhem. And ironically, other than being on the radio right now, is you're probably listening to the show through social media.
That's right.
So we are trying to wedge ourselves through all the negativity and junk in the world.
We're trying to keep it positive here.
Trying to, but you have to address the negative to turn the positive.
You can address the negative in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no need. We don't have to tear anybody down.
I think, James, maybe I should just throw insults to you from across the studio.
I can take it,
and you can throw them back, and then I can just keep scrolling. So we have another caller on the line here this morning. We have Abe calling in. Abe, are you with us?
I am. Good morning, JJ.
Good morning. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you.
So, Abe, how do you deal with it? How do you deal whenever your belief systems are challenged? I've seen you on Facebook. I know that you are a master of getting opinions out there, handling opinions, responding in a way that doesn't alienate people, even though, let's face it, you've probably alienated people because you took a step of putting yourself out there. I mean, how do you do this?
Sure.
You're like Superman. How do you do it?
Yeah, okay. All right. So now that the stage is set and there's no pressure whatsoever, right?
Exactly.
Gosh. So I just think the most important thing, I want to make sure that what I say is intelligent, right? You're not going to be believed or credible if what you say doesn't make sense and hasn't been well thought through.
Yeah.
And I want to be compassionate, right? I don't want to be somebody, regardless who I'm talking to, who tears other people down.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to, if I need to tear down an argument, I will, but I don't want to tear down people. That's not good for anybody.
Do you use Facebook as a way to tear down arguments? Like, do you feel like there's like maybe a calling in you or a mission that you feel like you have to put these things out here to get these conversations started, just to help people see things they don't see for themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I used to feel that a lot more strongly than I do. I'm learning a little bit more about how people work, how social media works. I think social media is still a great big experiment, really, and we're figuring out what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a little bit less campaigning or crusading or debating than I used to. I think what I do try and do is say, here's something you should think about. I'm not saying you need to change your mind. I'm not saying my mind is properly made up.
No.
But I think this is something worth considering, and if we want to be thoughtful people who are kind of pushing dialogue forward, we're all going to think about these things.
If we could all be aware that we're not going to change people's opinion based on what we're saying, generally speaking, on social media, I think we could all get a lot further in this and have much better, more constructive conversations.
I think that's absolutely right. But that's not to say I haven't ever changed my mind. People have changed my mind. I think if your mind is so made up that you're unwilling to change it, you're really in a bad place, right? Because education is the changing of the mind.
That is a great point. So, Abe, anybody listening to the show right now, and I'm hoping if you've made it this far into the show, you're really thinking hard about what can I do different, what can I be different, or how can I be different. And what I heard you just say is, if you're unwilling to change, and I'll add a few words in here, if you're unwilling to change anything ever, you may have a big problem with yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. And I don't know if that's most people may or may not agree with that. I don't know, but just for me, I'm
offended by it, Abe. I'm offended by your comment.
Right, exactly. You don't want to offend people, but you can't avoid it, and also you don't want to be offended, but you can't avoid it. And just saying, hey, there's two sides to every coin. Be compassionate, love people regardless of what they believe, but also understand that you can't possibly have, if you have two opposing viewpoints, they could potentially both be wrong.
Ooh.
But you can't in any circumstance have them both be right.
Definitely. Yeah. And how about, Abe, just our human nature that sometimes people they put people into a box where if you have this different opinion, they're somehow not a good person. These are good people. Most of our friends on Facebook are good people, but it's amazing how we manage to tear each other down and make judgments about them as a person based on one opinion that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on what faith tradition you come from, you either believe that all people are good, or you believe that all people are bad, right? And as long as you understand that you as the commenter are in the same boat as the person you're commenting towards, either they're just as good as you or they're just as bad as you, but neither more nor less. You can have constructive dialogue, I think. If you somehow believe that you've arrived at something that is that much better than what they've arrived at, not because they've been tricked, right? Not because of their circumstances and the way they've been raised, but because they're just an evil person. Once you start believing that about people, the problem is more with you. And so I think that calls for a lot of introspection.
And I've noticed that about what you do on Facebook, because you commented on a research question Monday night, where and we heard this from our previous caller, is I've never seen you talk about anything personally. In fact, I've seen people react to you personally, and you react impersonally. Like, it's like, because people, it's in their nature to go after the person because they don't like the message, and you don't fall for it. You just, it doesn't seem like you let it happen, and you're much stronger the guy than I am, because I just avoid it. I just let them shoot and be like, all right, I'm ducking. I'm out of here.
Well, what? I've allowed responding personally. I've allowed that to hurt me in the past and to hurt relationships, and honestly, to keep me up at night, right? Because we all want to be liked, and we hate being in personal conflict with other people, and especially people whose opinions we care about, because we care about those people. And so if you're somebody who loves other people, you can't help but care about what they think about you.
It's true.
And so if you're that guy who says, I don't care what you think, screw you, man, that stinks, because you just don't love the people around you. Right? So if you took the time to scroll back to 2009 on Facebook, you would see me, a very different version of me. Right?
Yeah, let's not do that, folks, because you'd find a different version of me too. Which would probably prevent me from ever.
That we've changed and we've grown, and we have been convinced of different and newer, different ways of conducting ourselves, which I think is beautiful.
Maybe there is hope.
There is hope. Abe has brought us hope to the show.
Thank you, Abe.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks. Absolutely.
and you can, if you're listening to the show, you can hear it in Abe's voice that Abe used to not always be like this. So we're all different phases of this challenge right now, and things in this world are starting to bring out the worst in us that we do have control over. And the quote that I wrote down that I'm going to make sure I continue to quote you on, Abe, is, 2 can be wrong, but 2 can't be right. And I think these are powerful words.
It is.
Yeah, if they're opposing each other, if those views are opposing, that's absolutely always the case. It's kind of a logical truth, right?
Hey, thank you so much for being part of the show this morning. We really appreciated your keep. I was about ready to say keep the good fight going, but keep the good facilitation going.
Absolutely, appropriately.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
good luck with the rest of the show.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
James, tell us a story that you told me earlier about. Was it your uncle?
Yes.
In the relationship. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So during the last political election, we were talking the other day. I've got an uncle who has very different opinions than I do, polar opposite. Okay. And most of what was being put on social media was he was stating his opinion, and that was fine. But then one day there was an opinion that got very personal, and it basically said anybody who believes in this candidate has X, Y, and Z beliefs, and it was tearing them down as people.
Yeah.
And I'd been quiet, and I finally at this point responded back and said, wait a minute, you are implying that everybody who believes in this candidate is a bad person.
It's a big brush.
It is. You're calling in our integrity, our personal values, and you shouldn't do that. And one of his friends then responded back, basically calling me a horrible person. And my uncle never came to anybody's defense, and it had an impact on our relationship. I should probably feel bad about that, because I probably should have kept my emotions in check a little better.
Okay. Take some responsibility.
Absolutely.
And where's that relationship been ever since?
We really haven't talked. He lives on the other side of the country, so we don't really normally have the chance to talk. But
so he moved after that.
Yeah, that's right. He used to live across the street. but so I unfriended him on Facebook because I just didn't want to be bombarded. I didn't want to damage that relationship anymore and have that possibly get into my aunt, my cousins. I didn't want to continue that domino effect.
Yeah.
You know?
And we heard that from Abe. So thinking about what Amy said, actually, let's go back to what Scott said, where he has this intention of not dividing anybody, and maybe was lucky enough or careful enough not to have people step in and separate it. And then we hear from Amy saying if someone does separate it, eject.
Yeah.
And then you have Abe, who is just super careful. I've known Abe for a while, and it's like walking around in a field of landmines.
It is.
But with the goal and intention of getting through the field, not going, hey, it's too risky, I'm not going to do it.
That's right. And there's one example though where it hurt a person, in this case a family relationship. I mean, how we need to keep ourselves in check. All of us do, to keep that from happening.
And that's where we need to start to tie a bow on this. Is what are we going to do moving forward? I'm making some personal commitments here on the show. Here's what you can do. You can ignore it.
Definitely.
And I think a lot of people do that.
Yep.
You can ignore that. You can love on them. Abe said love on them, which was on the list, and I took it off the list. I don't know why, because I remember putting that. You just throw some love on them. And it doesn't have to be verbal. It doesn't even have to be anything they know you do. You know, if you're a praying person, maybe you pray for them, or you just say, look, I just care about this person too much to go there. Another thing that a lot of people on Facebook told us to do, which I've done, is instead of react and fight, is ask them a question.
I like that.
Is to learn what is their belief system. And this goes into what Abe said. Sometimes you have two people that almost believe the same thing, but for some reason they're disagreeing over it. Nothing's worse than if you're in especially a fight with your spouse, and then you start getting to the point where you're like, what are we even arguing about? I have no idea.
That's right.
But we're going to keep going. And so you just stop and ask a question. And then another option, which is not one that we recommend here on the show, you can use lies, sarcasm, and be disrespectful.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Because that's the terrible, easy way out. You can fight them. You can go to war with them and defend and offend and go for it. Here's the advice that I recommend. Physically take them out for coffee.
Really?
Physically take them out for coffee. If this happens to you, whether it be in person, and it usually is not in person, it's somewhere in social media, is to say, can we get together and meet for coffee sometime and talk about it? Now, let's be honest. Most of the time, they're going to say no.
That's true.
Because people can't handle that.
Have you done this?
I have not.
Okay.
No, this is something that as I was getting my eyes and ears and mind and heart around the show, it's like, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start, instead of battling and ignoring, I'm simply going to say, I'm interested to learn more about why you feel this way. Can we get together for coffee? Because if they say no, then I'm done with it. If they say yes, then we could change the world together by doing something like this.
Wow. I like that. You're going to let us know how that goes.
I'm going to. So as we come up, we get one more quick draw. Let's see if we can have a tiebreaker. James is going to pull out a fruit or veggie from a Ginger Kid tool bag here. Half a tomato.
Half a tomato.
All right. Let's see what I got a piece of corn. Hold on a second. James, I won.
I'll give it to you.
I got corn, buddy. I won the Ginger Kid fruit and vegetable pull challenge. If you're confident in your beliefs and you own your state of mind, someone challenging your belief system should not faze you. I once heard, if you take offense, you have decided to take it and own it. So be careful whenever you start to take offense to something, because that was a decision on your part and not theirs. An option is to run away from the offense, the negative stories, the attacks on your belief system, but that's not the best path. Engage, reach out, invite them to a cup of coffee. I doubt they will accept, but maybe they will. Because if someone is shouting, it's because they want to be heard. Your role in this is to be a great listener. James, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Guess what? We're going to have you back, buddy.
Anytime.
You're coming back.
Name the day.
Visit us on the web, www.greatpeopleshow.com. Join us in the conversation to change the world. I'm JJ. This is James. You've been listening to The Great People Show.